So imagine, you get up and the AI agent already did a shopping for you in Walmart. It's always rushing to the best tool out there in the market, which give you the best deal. And they can easily turn that information into the vendor selection process and pick the right tool.
Your marketing team is investing in technology, the ROI isn't showing up. Tools go underused, stacks overlap. Every new software rollout feels like dragging people through mud. That's not a vendor problem, it's a structure problem. And most organizations don't realize it until they've wasted years of budget. Guan knows this better than almost anyone. She spent 15 years at CDW building the company's MarTech enablement team from the ground up, literally from the days when the marketing tech stack ran on a server sitting underneath someone's desk. By the time she left, she had turned that into a governance function, connecting marketing strategy with enterprise IT infrastructure at one of the country's largest technology distributors. In this episode of the Human Side of MarTech, Jean breaks down exactly how enterprise companies should approach enterprise MarTech vendor selection, drive adoption, manage the human side of change, and build the skills that will matter for the next decade of marketing technology.
Jean, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Pretty good. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to have you because you're like, I look at your LinkedIn especially, you're like this MarTech god, right? You're this expert who's just been in the field for a very long time, and you understand everything there is to know if you work at a brand, how you select, how you implement, and how you make sure that you get the most out of a solution that a company invests in. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that. Before we get into your experience, though, give us a little bit of background. Like, how did you even get into the MarTech space?
Yeah, my journey in MarTech space has been, very interesting. And I got my MBA in University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the program that I enroll in is called Operations and Technology Program, and it's a fairly new program. So right from the beginning, my life kind of, start to entangle with technology. And from there, my first job is, with a big global consulting firm called ZS Associate. They headquartered in Evanston, Illinois, which is not too far away from Chicago, downtown. And I got tons of experience around consultative services, what is the best approach, looking for, solutions, how to evaluate problems customer have, and then most importantly, how to, leverage technology as part of solution to improve the process the customer have.
That's great.
And then
I was going to just say, I saw a post on LinkedIn today from somebody else that went to University of Wisconsin, bragging about how University of Wisconsin has the most corporate CEOs in America over even the Ivy League schools.
Isn't that wonderful? And when I saw that post, I saw the same post, and I just feel so excited and then happy for them.
Yeah.
I always consider myself as a part of Badger.
Yeah. I'll give a big shout out to my buddy, Jim Price. He's a Wisconsin Badger, and I know he listens to the show. So he has a lot of positive things to say about Wisconsin and the university there in Madison. So you started off there. How did you get into CDW? Like, did you go there? Were they looking for someone to help with MarTech, or what was the catalyst for you joining CDW, which was your last company that you were there for 15 years?
Yeah, I was there for 15 years. And very interesting, when I first joined CDW, there was no formal MarTech team. So I remember, there's some software, small software built to handle some of the key process. So I asked, hey, where the software hosted? Where's the location of the server? And people will point me to the equipment, underneath of people's desks and say, this is our IT department. Of course, at that time, CW has a pretty large IT department. It just MarTech was kind of isolated at that time. And then after that, we have new CDW, MarTech leadership start to kind of um, doing some changes within the organizations. And this is where the MarTech enablement team formally.
Oh, interesting. And for context, I think for people listening, 15 years ago, 2011, there were probably 300 marketing technology companies in the world, right? And now there's like 20,000 plus. So we talk about that all the time on the show. Many people are familiar with Lumascapes, which is an investment firm that invests in marketing technology. And back in 2010, they launched their first Lumascape, which had like 250 solutions on it. And today there are something like 35 Lumascapes. So it just shows the explosion, and not surprising that it wasn't a core focus for CDW 15 years ago, but probably imperative that they have that department now.
Yeah. I think of the CDW situation was kind of the case for a lot of large enterprise company because you already have enterprise IT department, right? So to set up a MarTech specific focus enablement team inside a marketing department may not be necessary from organization perspective. I think CDW really made pretty big step to formalize that department. There's strategic consideration behind that. Number one is the purpose of that team, MarTech team, is really connecting the marketing strategy and the overall enterprise IT, infrastructure, and then be kind of like a connection tissues to kind of covering both sides, and then make sure that all the governance infrastructure, the IT best practice are flowing through that connection tissue into marketing department in the translation of the strategy, because marketing strategy are different from other department as well.
So I'm curious how this works inside of a large organization. Does the marketing team or the marketing strategy team say, we need a solution for email or whatever, fill in the blank, and then the IT team goes out and does the research, or the MarTech team, and then you bring options? Do you make the decision? Like, how does that whole process unfold from identifying the need to actually picking the vendor? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So imagine you are in an environment without MarTech team. The typical process could look like, hey, marketing leadership, I'm looking for a solution to replace my existing email system because the existing email system has too many technical challenges, right? So without MarTech team, IT department essentially they will step in and then help making that selections. And with IT, supporting so many departments, they may not have bandwidth and resource and expertise to kind of specifically pick the right tool. That's number one. Number two is they're not very familiar with marketing process unless they spending time really kind of understanding what is your existing email process, right? How this email channel interact with other channel and map out that process and understand it. But with IT supporting so many departments and with such limited resource, asking for that kind of analysis and study is just very difficult to get. But if you have a MarTech, dedicated enablement team inside of marketing, and they are already very familiar with all the process surrounding email channel, not just the email, but also, social media, paid search, and other channel as well. And they can easily turn that information into the vendor selection process and pick the right tool. So that's the significant difference between organization with MarTech and without MarTech.
No, I mean, I would imagine if I was in the marketing department, I would be very happy to have a team like yours working with me rather than having to work with the IT team. Does a company like CDW also have a procurement team?
They do. They have a procurement team as well, but that's a lot of time depends on the organization structure. It could be, either part of IT, it could be part of the finance.
So is that something that at CDW, did you, like when you would do the research to figure out the options to solve a pain or a need that the marketing team has, did you have to go to procurement and like make your case as to why you chose one vendor over another? Maybe you chose one that was a little more expensive, but maybe they had more features. Did you have to play that game as well?
Yes. So because CW is such a large organization and working together with IT, with legal, with procurement, with finance, that's all part of the process, standard process. And the many enterprise organizations have a best practice like this.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's a real challenge, and I think it's a real differentiation between a large company and say a younger, more nimble startup company, where it's like the marketing person is just evaluating the solution to being like, I like this one better, and they buy it, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
very different. But I imagine too, in a company the size of CDW, there's more need for accountability, right? So that's why you have these layers. How do you deal with like governance and making sure that you have adoption, that tools are being used to the fullest capacity, and that you minimize duplication? Like, is there a process that you build for that? Does that fall to you? Like, take us through how when you onboard a new vendor, how do you ensure that it gets used?
Yeah, these are really good questions. And we just talked about CW has, quite a few teams, procurement team and legal team, IT department, and a lot of times security team as well, right? So all those teams, from coordination perspective, it is a lot of layers that you have to work with, but you can also use those teams to kind of, to the benefit of vendor selection process. Because often CDW with those teams, they also have a great exposure in terms of the vendors out there. They have that kind of, solutions that can solve particular marketing problems. And this is where the beauty of governance comes in, because when you kind of interact with various different teams, you have a balanced view to kind of help marketing department to find the right tool. And then essentially the criteria are pretty, universal. You're looking for the right solution that's going to solve the problems that marketing department has, and also be able to kind of bring the change management perspective into this selection process, so you can help CDW um, elevate their process to the next level. Of course, the financial is a big consideration. You want to bring a software that has a significant positive ROI, and then with potential, income opportunities for CW, and also significant efficiency gain as well. And most importantly, security is a big consideration. And often MarTech enablement, they don't have expertise in terms of security expert. And then CDW has a really good security, team. And then they work with legal side by side. And then often in vendor selection process, they can, lend their hands and be part of the governance committee, and then share their security expertise to help figure out the right tool.
You mentioned change management, and I think for a lot of people, it was kind of an odd thing to maybe hear in this conversation, because I think of change management is like you're working on a project and you need to make a change, so you need some sign off and maybe the budget increased. But what does it mean to you, and what does it mean like to you when you were inside of CDW?
Yeah, talking about change management, and this is my favorite topic. Uh, when I when I study at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and Professor Urban Wemnoff, and he's the pioneer for change management. He wrote so many books around change management, And I always, every time I took those courses and I came home and I talked with my family, I said, I just took another change management, courses. Life is all about change, change, change. And then now my family members, a lot of people, they always go back and say, hey, don't ever resist change. It's all about change, change, change. So I love change management, and of course, because human nature kind of is not natural to kind of deal with changes all the time, regardless whether it's a private life or professional life. It's just hard, right? Especially like think about people coming in, doctor give you advice and say you can no longer drink coffee. That's a huge change. Professional as well, and change from one tool to another tool is a big. It's not just process change. Okay, I get up, I'm working this way, now I'm going to switch to another way. A lot of time, tool has an emotional aspect. Especially people working on that tool for 5 years, 10 years, you get attached to that software. You like the feature, you like the color coding, you like the red, yellow. It become personal, and then somebody take it away, and then you come in, they're no longer color coded, and it just you have to go through the text and you have to click on the link, and then that's a very emotional change for a human, right?
Yeah.
So dealing with change management in terms of software selections and install the right software is pretty big, and then from the beginning all the way to the end. And even before the vendor selection process, many leadership at CDW, they have to think about what kind of changes I want to bring into the culture, into the environment. This is the way I currently handle, marketing process with this software. Does this mean this process is going to significantly change? How does that mean for people working in the side of that process? If you have 50 people, interact through three softwares and then deal with 500 different steps, now with the new software reduce the process to 200 steps. What does that mean for the 50 people team? Those are very difficult questions for leadership to actually thinking about. So this is all beyond the software implementation and the installation. This is all beyond just a simple training and documentation. You're talking about people's professional life have to change on the daily basis. And some people may even lose their job or role. They have to adapt to a completely different area, a different role.
Yeah. Yeah, change. I never thought about it as much as I'm thinking about it right now as you're talking about it. I wish I'm going to send this clip to some people over at HubSpot, because I log into my CRM all the time and they've changed things. They move buttons around. They've changed colors, and I'm like, where is it? I need it and I can't find it. It's habit, right? And I think it's hard to get people to change. And I imagine that is part of the role, right? Like if you brought on a new solution and you needed people to do something different for many reasons, right? There was the investment you're making in the technology, a change in the ecosystem, monetary. I guess it comes down to training, right? But it's also retraining the behavior, not just training them on the technology. Speaking of change, I think the biggest change everyone's facing today is AI, right? And I think that fits into everything you were just saying there. It's a monumental shift I think organizations are seeing right now, and rapid, right? It's happened so fast. How does a company the size of CDW think about AI and change and how you operate and the tools that you use? Was that some of the things you were thinking about and working on when you were there?
Yes. And AI definitely is, one of the focus area, probably the most important focus area for CDW and also for CDW leadership team. And I think very early on, because CDW is a technology center company, so very early on, CDW kind of already made a strategic move to kind of incorporate AI as a part of the 360 view customer strategy. So AI is right embedded in the customer strategy to improve customer experience. Because as you can see, when you deal with whether it's the AI changes or software changes, it's not just impact internal process. The people that's going to feel most is our customers, right? And some customers may like the changes they are, um, being exposed to, and some customers may feel like, emotional because there used to be, his favorite sales team, the person he used to work with. Now, because of the AI changes, his favorite sales team members has to move to another area because of the structure change or because of the efficiency gain, right? And all those impact our customers. So how to leverage AI, how to invest strategically to improve our customer experience. And this is something CDW is going to continue work on, not only, this year, but also in the next couple of years as well.
Yeah, I think like with anything else, when you're talking about the customer, it needs to be seamless, right? If it's not seamless, then it's a bad customer experience. But what about in terms of like internal organization and the adoption of AI tools to make people more efficient? Is that something that was happening when you were there? And is that something that you were a part of in your role on the MarTech side, even though it's not marketing, but it's tech? There's so much overlap, and just kind of understand like in a company that size where AI transformation fits in.
Yeah, so when we talk about MarTech, AI and also AI agent embedded in those technology, it comes in as a package. So regardless whether you like AI or not, is already there. So we took the steps when I was there is essentially start to kind of educate all the internal users in terms of what AI features is embedded in what tool. In addition, and CDW also have Center of Excellence around AI and the governance as well, which is essentially, not only for marketing to kind of recognize those AI capabilities and also the benefit this could bring to marketing, also share those information with IT as well, and then present it in those center of excellences, so it gets communicated and shared to a much broader audience, and that audience including IT expert, legal, developers, directors, VP, leaderships. So the more it's being communicated, the more understanding people will have, and then that help with the adoptions and also help realize some of the benefit that AI can bring to the table, which is what you just mentioned, efficiency gain. And
Hmm.
I'll give a very concrete example, MarTech research. And it used to take, um, many days and talking with various different agencies, go through Gartner research paper, go through Forest research paper to kind of, identify what will be the right tool. With AI, with, various different models, that research time is significantly reduced, and that's the efficiency gain. And AI is so intelligent with various different insights and information. All it takes is just asking the right question for AI to give you the intelligent answer. And
Yeah.
CDW has many people feel that same way as well. You ask AI the right questions, and depends on the question you ask, and AI could be significant help to help find what you're looking for. And by doing that, your operational process is significantly improved in terms of efficiency and time.
Yeah. No, time. I mean, time is of the essence, right? Especially when you're thinking about your competition. Um, you mentioned marketing stack earlier, and there's always this talk in the MarTech world around companies having products or services, MarTech, that is duplicate, right? Like they have multiple solutions because one person didn't talk to another person, so they have two solutions that do the same thing, or they have two solutions that do different things, but they have competing products that overlap. Was that how did you navigate that problem? It's a two-part question, because not only how did you navigate it when you were there, but how is AI going to impact that problem? I would imagine it exacerbates the problem, in that more and more solutions are going to have more and more features that overlap. Is this something that you thought about in your role?
Yeah, I kind of facing that problem every day. And as a MarTech practitioner, and there's a lot of tool that comes in with overlap features. I'll just take a CRM example, right? You have a Salesforce CRM, and you also have a HubSpot CRM as well. So which CRM that will be the best fit? When I think about those overlaps, there's no right versus wrong. The most critical thing to actually to figure out what is the right tool, what is the right feature for particular process and for particular team. And once you start to kind of, thinking about that perspective, that will also help you guide the team to the right tool. Because each different organization, they build it differently. Their operational process because of the history, the customers, right? And then the product offering. And HubSpot CRM could be the right fit for one organization, may not be the right fit for another. And also depends on, the legal requirements and compliance. And company like CDW, we have a diversified customer segments. And the business process from healthcare is very different from the business process, from small business or, federal customers, right? The compliance requirement is different. So even though mailing technology have from the surface, they have overlap features, but once you, dive deeper, look at the right fit, you can always find the right tool for that. And also depends, many organizations choose the tool because of the volume. And so if you look at a Fortune 500 company, depends on whether it's B2B or B2C, depends on how many products you have to communicate. Sometimes some software just cannot handle, hundreds, millions of emails. It really take, scalability for certain software to be able to handle that large scale.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting as you navigate through those problems. It's always fun. It's like peel the onion, and then there's so many puzzles. And I always get excited and I really enjoy the journey.
Yeah. When you think about, continuing with the AI transformation topic, and if you were speaking with a marketing person, based on your experience, what are the skills that you think they should be focused on learning, to stay competitive in their role? Because you see a lot of layoffs happening, right, across different companies. But then you also see they're also hiring people, and they're looking for people with certain skill sets. So, from your vantage point, sitting on that MarTech team, looking at marketing organizations, are there specific skills today that a marketing person should, it's imperative that they learn so they stay competitive in the workforce?
Yeah, so you talk about the skill set. That's a very good question. And in order to kind of become experts in the MarTech area, the skill set essentially coming from three different pillars. Of course, the technology is going to be critical, right? You got to have a passion about technology, understand what the technology can do. But then the second pillar is also important. That's the process. So you have to understand, specifically for the organization, what is the process set up, within that environment and why it was set up that way. That good understanding is going to help you prepare and positioning for the future change, which is change management. And the third piece is the organization and the people. So you have to have a human touch, understanding, how the team is structured to operate within that process and using that technology in that particular way. Especially when you know, have a communication with, operational specialist working inside of the email team, you have to understand, how they are doing their job, what are their major pain point, and then what kind of solution you can bring to the table to kind of help reduce that pain point. And then by doing so, you bring the efficiency and also the time saving to the table. So the skill set across those three areas are very critical, which one of the things absolutely needs to have is the strong communication skill set. So when you're working on the technology, you have to have the right, communication, speak the right term with the technical experts. When you work with email specialist and pay search specialist, you need to understand what are the process and steps they're going through on the daily basis. And sometimes intimately, you have to understand their passion, why they're taking their role, career development goal they're trying to achieve in their day-to-day, jobs. And then of course, the process. The process is essentially connecting the tool and the people together.
Yeah.
And so those are very critical skill set in order to kind of be able to doing well in that kind of role.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think it's harder than it sounds, right? Because some people can talk more technical, some people can't, some people can do both, and I think you have to learn how to do both. I think the other thing too is if you're looking for a job today, to make sure you're asking the organizations that you're talking to what their roadmap looks like. What is their initiative around being, AI forward? Because if you're going to go take a job and be there for a couple of years, you got to make sure that you're staying up with the workforce. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get your next job, right? And so I think you need to be in an environment where you're forced to learn so that you can stay ahead of your competition, so to speak. If you were speaking to somebody that was thinking about going into MarTech, I view MarTech as like a few different ways in, right? You can go work for a vendor, you can be on the marketing side and just be tech savvy, or you can go work for an organization like the one you were in at CDW, where you're completely focused on MarTech. Would you recommend that somebody focus on any one of those roles? And what would your advice be to them as they're entering that field? I'm speaking of somebody maybe coming out of college or pivoting in their career.
Yeah. So I think when people are looking for a MarTech related role, and because there are three pillars, and sometimes you could have a balanced exposure across all three, or you can start to shift it into a particular one, or particular two out of those three. And so I would strongly encourage people thinking about MarTech, not just the technology. And but if people like, it depends on their passion. So they have to understand what they enjoy, what they're passionate about. Some people really love, working with process. They are Six Sigma, certified, right? So if you're working on the process improvement, you essentially leveraging those technology to make those significant transformation. You're essentially in the field. And if you are a lot of people are change management expert. So they are more leveraging project management skill set to kind of manage a large technology implementation or transformation. You're MarTech related as well. So MarTech, the beauty of MarTech, there's so many very different roles you can step in and still be related to the MarTech area. And then another good thing about MarTech is once you know how marketing technology works, you can easily, based on your passion and interest, you can evolve to another technology, like for example, sales technology, right? So within the sales organization, there's so many technology related, task and role as well. So you can start to kind of, see your career continue, evolve and unfold it, and then you can continue to develop that potential that you discover about yourself. And then there are, other areas like fintech, which is the financial technology, right? There's so many financial technology out there. And for example, the most recent trend is you buy first and pay later, or you buy expensive items and then you divide it into 10 different payments, and then you can, uh, still enjoy the purchase that you have. Those are all part of the fintech, revolution in the last couple of years. I remember when I first started with my job, like buying something and pay later. That's definitely something I would never consider. If you buy something, you gotta pay it right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a
So
generational thing. I don't quite get it
yeah,
either. How about we do a little rapid fire? What do you think the most overused MarTech buzzword is?
I would say CDP.
CDP. Okay. You
Every
want to elaborate
every
on that?
every every technology, a lot of what I have encountered, almost every technology claim they are part of CDP, which is a customer data platform.
Yeah. It's
So
funny because I totally agree because I know on Blurbs there's a lot of CDPs listed, and some of the companies will be like, "Oh, we're not a CDP." I'm like, "I just read your website. You're definitely a CDP," but they don't want to be positioned that way because they just get lost in the mix. So,
yes,
yeah, I would agree. Okay, the biggest mistake companies make when they're evaluating MarTech solutions.
it's always kind of rushing to the best tool out there in the market, and which give you the best deal. And when you rush it, may not be the right tool for you.
Yeah.
So skipping the
Um,
research steps and then jumping into the tool is always kind of very risky.
yeah, you got to do the research, right? And that's one of the things, not for another shameless Blurbs plug, but that's something you can do very quickly, um, so that you can move business along. I get it; they want to solve problems faster, and it's a great way to go about it. What are some trends that you're watching closely today?
I think right now the most you know the popular trend, and then that's going to bring significant impact, is the agentic ecosystem. That's going to change a lot of things. So and that directly impact customer experience as well. So imagine, you get up and the AI agent already did a shopping for you in Walmart. You have all the food already there at the door. And what if AI agent, made the wrong payment, and then overspending what you budget for that month? So that's that. All those kind of, technology could have a significant impact in terms of customer experience and also healthcare, right? As you can see, healthcare has been very difficult area for a lot of people, right? And hospital bill is high, and healthcare is insurance is increase year after year. I'm very excited how we can use AI to help solve the most difficult healthcare problem that this nation is facing. And I'm just so, looking forward to the future. I feel like even though there's a lot of challenges ahead of us, I think we can use the technology for most benefit to help improve everybody's life.
Look, I couldn't agree more. I think agents are super powerful and something for us to keep an eye on. But I love the fact that you brought in healthcare at the end here because it's an industry that can benefit from AI on both sides, right? On the administrative side to reduce costs, But on the medical side, to diagnose, I think that there's a lot of things that get missed because there's just so much data out there that, doctors are human and they
Correct.
can't know everything. So I think it's an exciting future we have. I think it's easy to get caught up in the pessimism around AI, but I think people should take a broader view of what AI can do for our society. And I think from a jobs perspective, I think that it's just a matter of reshaping the market, not necessarily eliminating jobs. So, we'll have to see. But I think that's a great place to leave it. Gene, it was wonderful having you on the show. I appreciate your insights. It's been insightful. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. And I hope
it's
you
a
have you
great
on
pleasure
again.
to be here.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.
That's it for today's episode of the MarTech Matrix, a Blurbs production. To see what's coming up next, visit themartechmatrix.com. And if you're looking for your next MarTech solution, start your search at trustblurbs.com, where marketers discover vendors faster.